Hey everyone, welcome back. I just love what's going on here, but I can't say enough about everybody using the Slack channel. This is all about networking and tap someone on the shoulder, have a conversation, do business. That's what we're here for. So for our next session, I want to first say a big shout out to our friends at Channel Factory, who's the partner on the event and the underwriter of this session. Thank you, Channel Factory. It's been great to work with you guys. And I now want to introduce our moderator, Miss Hannah Beeland from Dentsu Aegis, and also a partner of ours in the event. Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, our friends back in the States as well. Hannah, please take it away.
Hi there. I'd like to introduce my three lovely panelists, and just quickly like to introduce the session as well. So we want to talk about why not all advertisers should be treated equally. And so I'd love to introduce Mattias Spetz, MD of EMEA at Channel Factory.
Hey guys.
Chris Kenna, Chris Kenna, founder of Brown Advance.
Hey.
And Carolina Vicente, director at HelloFresh.
Hi everyone.
So in mid-March, Comscore estimated that news sites had seen an increase of 44% in traffic to news sites. So what I want to talk about is, has that increase in traffic changed your approach? And has it, have you used that brand safety and brand suitability? Has that been part of your change in approach? Carolina, can I start with you, please?
Sure. So in terms of a change, the increased traffic opportunity hasn't really changed how we approach that. So we're still applying the same principles as we were before as a company, whereby they're probably not as strict as a financial services approach would be, but at the same time, there's some controls in place. But in terms of making the most of the opportunity, that's why we haven't necessarily been stricter with the approach, but there are some levers in place to ensure we don't end up next to controversial content that could damage the brand. And we take arguably an approach that's not as strict as some other brands do, because we basically see those leads and those conversions as kind of that's what we try to pursue, right? So it's not necessarily restricting content as a driver. It's more we will go for our audiences wherever they are. Obviously not regardless content or context. We will apply some rules to kind of remove things like associations with terrorism and things like that. But we take it. We don't take it necessarily as some other brands do from even my past experience, actually.
And do you think that increase in traffic, has that allowed you to find those audiences easily? Or do you think you've been more restrictive, I suppose, in how you find those audiences? I mean, like you say, HelloFresh is something that at the moment everyone is kind of looking at that to sort of make sure that they're not going outside and using those avenues of delivery. So do you think that's, that increase in traffic has actually helped you to find those audiences easier?
So we did find more of the audiences we were already serving. So we didn't find any new audiences. What happened was an increase in the audiences that we served as a business and as a brand already. So that made it definitely easier to not necessarily to find them, but actually we were fortunate enough that they came to us more than we shifted an approach to find them, which was a fortunate position to be in. But from a brand safety perspective, again, it was just about verifying that those controls were still in place and just making the most of the additional traffic opportunity that we experienced.
Mattias, how has that increase in traffic affected Channel Factory? Have you been able to kind of segment and make sure that all that inventory is brand safe or suitable?
I think it hasn't really affected us from a traffic perspective, but I think it has affected us that the market and the brands and the agencies look at brand safety and brand suitability a little bit more cautious, because it's raised the question, should we around COVID content or not? Of course, we see a huge drop in spend, all over the board when it comes to advertisement. So I can't say it has infected us for more traffic, but it's infected us where we can have more discussions about what kind of content or what kind of content owner do we want to be associated with. So for example, with the COVID situation, there's two sides, right? Especially when you work with social platforms. One side says we should be around COVID content, and one side say that we shouldn't be around COVID content. But I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. If you can make sure that you've been seen on content owners or publishers that talk relevantly about the COVID situation, and it's not like using it for clickbait or scare tactics, or it's like opinions, then I think you can, be really safe and use this situation.
Yes, I think that's one thing to be really clear about, isn't it? The opinions that article is kind of giving out, that context, and whether it is suitable to be in the context of that article, whether that brand likes what that article is saying or not. Chris, do you think your brands are kind of using that context more than they did previously? Or do you think they're kind of seeing all this amazing increase in like really good inventory and thinking that they can actually get some cheap traffic and actually, get more conversions that way?
I think from Brand Advance's standpoint, it's a little bit different. COVID-19 has been nothing, this period has been nothing but opportunity. I can not say it in any other way. Is that brands, governments that didn't used to spend in the demographics that we represent, that our network, and the publishers that are on our network, they stretch across Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, Hispanic, Latinx, African American, LGBT, disability, etc., etc. All the demographics that have long been the other, but now are at the forefront. This whole period has changed the word low paid worker to a key worker. That's a seismic shift in the narrative of these demographics. So, what that's also meant is a massive increase in spend, massive. We will release the numbers at some point, but now from government through to brands and our clients have shifted major spend from, dare I say it, reaching mainstream to now making sure that every digital campaign that they do is speaking to these demographics that were not long ago blocked by the very brand safety procedures that we're talking about, whether it's a keyword blocking or a fear of the unknown, or whether it was inclusion and exclusion list blocking, or, all these different avenues that we use for brand safety. But now I think as mindsets have changed and as the mindsets within the brands have changed, then I think hopefully it continues afterwards. I think it will. I think this is a change for good. But if there's anything good that's come out of COVID, it has been that people are, or by people I mean brands, our brands especially, are spending a lot more in reaching communities and consumers that they didn't reach before.
Yeah. So that inclusivity is high. I mean, I suppose the thing about the period we're in at the moment, as we said, there's a 44% increase in traffic to news sites, and that's where people want to get their content from. And so that kind of good content, hopefully people will still log in and look at those news sites afterwards, so we can continue, like you say, to get that amazing content and to get that relevant brand next to that good content as well. How easy do you think is it for brands to stay safe? We've just talked about how brands are thinking about being more inclusive, but sort of thinking of outside of news and maybe into YouTube and other kind of channels, how easy is it for brands to stay safe and not next to content which is unsafe? Carolina, what do you think? How easy is it for HelloFresh to be in that good environment where, you're not next to that list of things that everyone doesn't want to be next to?
Sure. So we actually heavily rely on the controls that are made available to us by the partners that we work with. We don't necessarily go beyond that to try and apply some more overlays onto it. So we try to stay safe by using what's already proven to be quite effective at managing that side of things. For us, we find it so far, we find all of those controls pretty reliable. It's been straightforward and easy for us to stay within the parameters that we define. Again, they're not super strict in terms of a long list of blocked categories or blocked publishers as such, but it's more around themes and type of content that we don't want to appear against. So far, when we go around and make sure that everything is still set up properly, relatively easy and straightforward, I have to say. So I've experienced in past lives in other businesses, leaks and wherever we were trying to manage these controls with the technology we had in place through partners and through the big platforms, we did experience some kind of leaks around things we didn't want to be appearing against. But having said that, those technologies have now advanced quite substantially, and they are able to filter through what we actually want and don't want to appear against. And from a HelloFresh perspective, we're pretty happy with how that's been performing for us. So no issues there from our side.
Mattias, do you think, I suppose, as a technology provider, do you think that the technology is good enough and can actually block those bad content for the brands that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I need to say yes. That I think our technology is good enough for that. So that's an easy one.
Is there improvements? Do you think there is? I mean, there's always ways to improve. Maybe I should have phrased it like that.
Yeah, but I think what we are experiencing and the way we think is that we need to turn this around, right? We have always, and I totally agree with what Chris is saying. The market has looked at what can we exclude. What can we exclude from a content perspective that we don't like or that we don't want to be associated with. And then you have taken that too far, especially on social platforms, because you can say that in a publisher, you can have a personal preference what that publisher stands for, or it's easy to go in and check. But as soon as you go into social media platforms, it's really, really hard for a brand or an agency to actually know all the channels that you're running on. So then we have started to build up huge exclusion lists that probably have taken this too far. So we can say, for example, just to be easy, we can say we're going to block everything that's religiously related. Doesn't matter if it's Christian or Muslim or Islam or whatever it is, we're going to block everything, because on a social media platform, we might end up in content where they say Christian is bad or Muslim is bad, and we not want to be on that. We support religious differences, but we want to make sure that we don't end up on content that goes against our belief. So that's why exclusion list has become a little bit too big, and you build it out. So what we want to do, and what we're trying to do, is talk to the brands and the clients and say, what content do you want to be associated with? Which channels, which publishers, which content owners, which influencers, which creators do you think has the same standard as you have? And also look at the performance on it, because then you can say, I want to be on news with COVID as long as it's a publisher or an influencer or whatever it could be that actually stands on my belief. And if you're going to do this, we think you need to have technology, because you can't go in and say, I'm going to look at the latest video and say, what did that person say? Was it good or was it bad? Was it according to my beliefs? Then you need to have technology that can actually backtrack and follow what that influencer has been talking about, how they have positioned themselves regarding HBTQ or religious or COVID or whatever it could be, to make sure that that's a trusted content owner. And I believe that I can be around that. And if you have a good inclusion list and you look at it on that way, you can actually remove a lot of your exclusions. And that's a little bit how we see it. And the more you remove your exclusion, the more you can build scale. And the more you build scale, the brands and agencies are happy, because then they reach a bigger target group. It doesn't matter if it's a white, black, Asian, or whatever it is. You reach more the audience, and they then can buy more of your products. Plus, usually, the price for media goes down, because you.
Yeah, Chris, I can see you nodding. Please jump in, Chris.
If I can jump in as well, and it's literally to just build on what you just said, buddy, is that right now is Ramadan. And we've got HelloFresh on here. Ramadan at the moment, so there are millions of Muslims across the world that are fasting all day, and then, when the sun goes down, they are eating. They're wanting to eat healthy. They are giving to charity. They are, they are the main pillars of what Ramadan stands for. If using blunt instruments is meaning you can't get next to good Muslim content, whether it be an influencer on a social media platform or whether it be a publisher like the Muslim Vibe or Times or whatever publisher that might be, then that is an opportunity missed. There are millions of potential customers to, whether it be, I'm using HelloFresh just because you're on here, so I apologize, I'm using that brand, but I mean, any food brand right now for this month, that should be a focus of their marketing calendar. There are millions of people that are going to buy food. And at the moment, we're all stuck in a house, so we need to order in food, and to speak to that demographic, for that Muslim demographic to even consider using that brand. It needs to be contextually relevant with creative that speaks to that demographic. You can't just use, last year's generic, always on creative. It needs to show a little bit of consideration for the very demographic it's gone to, and then being stuck in a contextual environment. But these contextual environments are forever blocked. You don't need to harp on again about it because we've all seen it in the news. But keyword blocking, and like Mattias said, keyword blocking has gone array. You're blocking. Well, I'm black and I'm gay, and you block me everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, an ad getting to me, most times on publishers, outside of going on my own, my company's own network, I get like retirement ads because nothing else can get through in the programmatic sort of ecosystem. So I get a retirement ad come through. I'm only 37, like I feel old sometimes, but I don't think I'm quite near retirement yet. But that's the only thing that can get through, because everything of any relevance is blocked, because it's been blocked by the word gay, it's been blocked by the word interracial, it's been blocked by the word black, So, I think, everybody listening, watching.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. But I think we need to separate. I totally, we discussed before, and I'm fully on board with what you're saying. But I think it needs to be a difference between when we're talking about blocking context and when we're blocking demographics. So blocking demographic and people's interests, that's for me is a completely no-go. That's really, really bad from any point of view. But blocking context because you are afraid of ending up on context that talks towards your beliefs, I think that's a discussion that we need to have. And the only way to solve that is actually to work more with inclusions and actually decide on what kind of publisher I want to be seen on, or content owners or creators or influencers, whatever it could be.
Yeah.
How do we make brands kind of brave enough almost not to have an inclusion or an exclusion list? I'm working at a global agency, and we struggle to update sometimes our exclusion and inclusion list because we have so many exclusions and inclusions that lots of policies from different brands that we work with. How do we make those brands really brave and say, I don't want an exclusion list anymore?
Was that directed at someone, or can I just go off again?
Anyone, jump in, please.
Well, we work with Dentsu, so let me take it to a brand that you'll know. I know they've just jumped ship to somewhere else, but let's take Diageo, for example, right? So Diageo spends X amount of million on trying to reach people online that are interested in making a frozen cocktail. But in their thousands upon thousands of keyword block list, high near the top is the word frozen, because frozen is associated to a kids movie, the biggest kids movie in the world. But they're still spending millions on people that type in, I would like a frozen cocktail. So it's not so much telling brands to take things out of their blog list or put things in. It's, as Mattias says, it is that context. The context of a kids movie, don't stick a drinks ad next to, but the context of somebody talking about the 10 best frozen cocktails, Diageo should be all over that. So, you know, I think it's more an education than a take this word out and put this. You can leave the word black in there, you know, but just don't go next to gang-related content or next, you know, but do go next to an article that's talking about black nurse NHS heroes right now, you know, because that's quite high. There's a lot of content out there, whether it's in Black, Asian, minority, ethnic publications or in mainstream, talking about how, you know, that community has been quite over-indexed on, that's the wrong word, over-indexed, but you know what I mean, has been hit really badly by COVID, you know, so there's a lot of content. Now, all that content will be blocked if you just block the word black, but actually, doesn't every brand want to go next to an article that's lifting up our heroes, whether they're a bus driver or a street cleaner or a nurse, you know, and it's got the word black or Asian in there because there's a majority of them key workers are black or Asian at the moment. So yeah, I think in answer to your question, and I'm waffling a little bit, it's an education. I mean, in all honesty, sat here as a black gay guy, do I think I'm a little bit tired of educating people about why they should be doing the right thing. Let's be honest, let's speak truthfully. You know, you know, why am I telling you that it's right for you to speak to me as a consumer or to my community? But we do sometimes have to hold hands and take along the journey and, you know, make people feel safe about it. So, yeah, I think it's an education.
Okay, so I've got 2 questions in. So the first one, so do you feel like too many brands are being over-restrictive and blocking any type of COVID-19 content, even the safe content? So I suppose we touched on that at the beginning. Who'd like to take that one? Mattias, maybe? Would you be able to just talk about over-restrictive blocking?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, I totally believe that blocking keywords or content has gone overboard, and I think that's as I said, it's a consequence that comes from programmatic. You know, when programmatic started, we always look at demographics, and when we see that demographic is not enough, we look at context. Now we're going into the next phase and we look at brand suitability. So I definitely think that we're blocking too much in general, but I definitely also think that we need to be better at choosing what kind of content providers we end up on, or even from the start. We do that normally on every, you know, broadcaster or newspaper. We choose our content provider based on, as said, on, of course, price, scale, all of that kind of stuff. But we also do it from company preferences. You know, where do we want to be associated? Who do we want to be seen with? And we need to do that much more instead of talking about who should we or what should we exclude. Make sure that we talk about what should we include on a contextual side, but also on a performance side. Then I think we could remove a lot of the actual inclusion words.
Cool, thank you. Second question I've got, if I can ask Carolina, how should brands think about brand safety and suitability when they're crafting contextual targeting and video strategy? So yeah, how are you using your brand suitability and safety to inform how you're actually using your video?
So in terms of thinking about brand safety and suitability, the first thing that I would say is understanding what you absolutely cannot compromise with. So what are the content exclusions and what are the actual exclusions that you want to make as a brand that you cannot compromise with? And then after that, understanding what your message is and how exactly to craft your message, just so it's always clear and transparent what it is that you're trying to achieve. When it comes to then that brand safety and brand suitability and thinking about beyond that, think about the audience as well. I think thinking about the audience and their needs is important also to craft the message, but also when thinking about brand suitability, thinking about also someone was saying before, programmatic has kind of brought to the forefront the whole conversation about brand safety and brand suitability because of basically how media is bought and how it kind of appears against the various different types of content, both from video and in a more kind of banner advertising perspective. It's kind of critical to, so when that's understood and when message is crafted and when the audiences are established and brands know how to address them and where the exclusions for where they cannot compromise are, it's also important to think about from a business perspective, what are the objectives? So from a HelloFresh perspective, we're kind of a positively opportunistic brand in the sense that we want to chase the opportunity where they are. We're not going to apply any exclusions that are not that to us sense as a business, right? So we exclude personal, rather we do exclude categories and conversational topics such as terrorism and things like that, so that we do not under any circumstance want to be associated with, and especially when it comes to video conversations, we do not want to be associated with funding any of that, so we kind of exclude that. But in terms of the audience itself, we do not necessarily exclude characteristics for the audience or where they live, their preferences, etc. We do not exclude based on that, because it does come back to that thing where we say we need to be also, from a business perspective, opportunistic and chase the opportunities as they arise in relevantly contextual places as well. But yeah, I guess it will also depend on the category or the industry that we are in as brands, right? So a financial services brand will have things that they would need to restrict, whereas a retail brand perhaps can be a little bit more flexible. So it's understanding the industry you're in as well, which is also important to apply those exclusions. But I think people can go a little bit overboard sometimes with thinking about brand safety, and that starts to be the lead for the strategy, as opposed to, okay, let's lead from a business perspective and from an audience perspective. What do we want to achieve as a business, and what's the need that we're trying to serve from an audience point of view?
Cool. And like, I suppose thinking about that fluidity, because I think that's really important. And Chris, I think we spoke about this, all three of us actually spoke, four of us spoke about it when we caught up last week. Like, have we actually just swapped the word safety for suitability? Is there actually a difference between the two?
The answer is yes, we have just swapped. I mean, I couldn't answer the difference. I don't know what the difference is really, brand safety, brand suitability. I think the way that brand safety has been approached it feels like it has been not detrimental, but has hindered the growth of a brand. You know, that sort of slapstick approach can only hinder reach. And then, you know, and it feels like changing the word to brand suitability is, unless there's a change in the thought process, unless there's a change in the whole approach, then yeah, you've literally just swapped one word out, changed it with another, and continue to have the bad, you know, to continue the bad practices. And I think there's no other word than bad practice. We're marketeers. Our job as marketeers, whether we're from the tech side, whether we're on the brand side, whether we're on the agency side, our job is to get the brand out to as many possible consumers as possible. That's the job. You know, we build emotive stories around it. We make you feel happy. We make you feel sad. We sometimes sell you something you need. We sometimes sell you something you didn't know you needed. We sometimes sell you something that you didn't actually need. But all the way along there, that's just different levels of being a good marketeer. But, you know, that's the job. That's what we're here to do. And all this technology and all of that is just to make that safer, but with still the same goal, to reach as many possible consumers as possible and convert them. Now, to put our own blocks in that process, you know, whether sometimes by a little bit of laziness, let's call it out, you know, just writing a list of words and saying, I don't want to go next to them, and handing that to your agency, and then saying, but still give me scale every year, and actually we'll reduce the fees, but I want more scale. You know, it's just lazy. And then also sometimes, and this definitely isn't you, Mattias, but sometimes from the tech side as well, where they sort of had a product that worked a few years ago, but haven't changed that product with the times to now be contextual rather than blunt, you know, to not just have a dashboard that only allows you to block the word gay, and you actually need to, you know, to block more. I think I'm having my Adele moment and I have to shut up. I've gone over time. But yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Just one thing there from my side. Of course, I think brand safety and brand suitability is a huge step forward, because instead of saying that as long as it's brand safe, as long as someone doesn't break the law, we're fine. You know, I think brand suitability makes us all conscious and takes decision where do we actually want to run on. You know, it's not just COVID, it's health. It's like what you're talking about. You know, just saying that I'm okay to be seen on everything that's regarding gay content. That is also saying that I will also support the ones that are against that. I think brand suitability takes that next step to actually make sure that you choose and be a part of the change where we say, no, it's not okay to support the ones that say that is bad. We choose to actually support the one that said it's good. I don't like the word that we go so much on exclusions, but I think that's the path. That's the path. We need to be more conscious and decide on which content am I okay with. I think that's for me, it's super important. It's the same thing with health, the same with the environment. It's the same thing with racial questions. You know, we as people and the world and companies needs to support the ones that produces good content and make sure that they get more money and they get more reach, because that's where I think the world is going.
Thank you.
Okay, you know, I think we're gonna. Yeah, Hannah, I'm going to jump in here. I think we're going to end on that point, Mattias. Great job, everyone. You know, I love it when sessions go long, because that means you guys have too much to talk about, and so we can continue this conversation all day. And it's a good thing we can use the Slack channel. You guys can all take this over. You can continue the live Q&A. It's been super great. And I thank you all. This has been a great session. I'm going to throw a little music on here, right? So we can have a little fun. We've got a break coming up. I know you can't hear me, but I'm gonna use the music to go to break. Everybody, we're gonna be back in 10 minutes live. Go hit the lobby, go take a minute, go have a coffee, and we'll see you in 10 minutes after the break at 10:40 a.m. Guys, thanks so much. It's been a great morning so far. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.